Good afternoon, the Church of Kfar Ganim. I have now a new sermon on Psalm 74. Psalm 74, the meaning of the name 74 in gematria is one who saw something happen and can tell about it, or until now, what happened until the end of writing of the chapter. The episode is really a story of an eyewitness about the destruction of the temple and things he saw in his life that praise God. Verse 1. The psalm is intended to make those who read it wise. It was written after the destruction of the temple by one of Assaf's descendants. Assaf was a poet in the first temple in the time of King David. The author asked why God left the people of Israel. Verses 2 to 3. The author asks that God will protect the people, their country, and the place of the temple, Mount Zion. That from now on ever, anyone who shall touch in the temple of God will be destroyed by God. Verse 4. The enemies of the people of Israel, who are also God's enemies, they shouted in a very loud voices inside the holy places of the people of Israel, places where was usually quiet places of worship. Those places designate for Israel festivals. They put in them severe signs of abuse in the building or in the area of the building. Verse 5. It is a reverse verse. In the beginning, it is about cutting down the cedar of Lebanon in a forest tangled with many branches. They were cutting down the cedars with axes, and that should be the end. Afterward, the trees arrived to the Jaffa beach in a raft from Lebanon, and from there were brought up to Jerusalem for the building of the temple. The past is the past is the first one, and the present is the last part of the verse. Verse 6. In a sledgehammer and hatchets, they are using to take down all the carvings from the trunks and the trees in general from the temple to the floor. The enemies make it easier to burn the temple. Verse 7. Without the framework of the trees, the stone collapsed of themselves in the fire. So the temple collapsed. It didn't just catch fire like you think. No, they destroyed it on purpose. First, with hard work, they lowered all the trees to the floor and then lit them inside the hole, and the whole temple collapsed. Verse 8. The enemies of the people of Israel wanted to kill all the families, great-grandfather, grandfather, father, son, and grandson. May there be no memory of the people of Israel, so they wish. They burned and destroyed all the holy places of Israel. Verses 9 to 10. The narrator says that the prophecy is complete and no one knows what will happen. All these things that were done to the temple and the holy places are blasphemy and the fierceness of God. In addition, the enemies would curse God and belittle and humiliate him. Verse 11. On the other hand, now God doesn't use his powers. His hands are laid next to his body, so to speak. Verses 12 to 17. This is a list of testimonies of God's miracles in the past, storms and the deaths of whales that washed ashore and were food for many seafarers. Streams and springs were created, and on the other hand, huge rivers were disrupted. The day and the night that God created, as well as the light, the small light of the moon, and the sun, the big one, continental boundaries and season, He created everything. Verses 18 to 19. The enemies, another pagan nation, blasphemed God It is a repetition of verse 10. When something is said twice in a chapter in the Bible, it is more central and correct. And the author asks God not to give these human beings, spiritual animals, this possibility. Including the possibility of living in the Word, God should always remember the people of Israel, who are now in great physical and spiritual poverty. Verses 20 to 21. The author demands that God keep his covenant with the people of Israel. At this time, when everywhere there is evil, that the poor in the people of Israel will not be ashamed and be distressed, but will rise up and praise God for his help. God will act now and take revenge on those who hurt his people. He will remember all the blasphemies and injuries inflicted on him by the sinners, who didn't stop cursing God all day long. This section should be constant, since sinners always resist God, always work against him, and always reveal him. God must not forget this. The verses 20 to 23 are summarizing the whole chapter, which the person who created the chapter was receiving the destruction of the temple, but asked God to help Israel in his current situation.